Hi and welcome to my soul tribe. My name is Miriam Rose. If you like this video, please make sure to subscribe, set your bell on all, like, comment and share, as I really appreciate all of your support. Now let's get on with the video. My dearest brothers and sisters, this is Tunia speaking. I love you so very much. Today I would like to give a few suggestions on how to maintain romantic relationships. This is by no means a complete list. Many common earth tips on this topic are very valuable too. Communicate your needs. This may sound obvious, but it really is critical to communicate your needs, even if you feel that they are weird or that you're being too needy, or if you are scared that the other person will reject you. The reason for this is that there are only really three outcomes possible if you consistently do not meet a certain need that you have. The first possible outcome is that to an extent you will become stuck and stop growing and expanding until you do meet that need. This is actually pretty common. You may know someone who spent 5 or 10 years or even longer just being in a relationship and working and going through their routines and hobbies, and they frankly don't change much during those 10 years or more. This may be because of trauma or because they have an unmet need that they are continually suppressing. It's not really natural for an earth human to not change very much in a span of 10 years. Usually then there is some trauma or unmet need that is blocking further growth and expansion. Of course, healthy relationships where you are meeting your needs can actually help you grow and expand and become yourself. The second possible outcome is that your unfulfilled need slowly poisons the relationship until the relationship ultimately fails. The third possible outcome is that you will start meeting the need in manipulative ways, for example by lying to your partner and fulfilling that need behind their back, or by using manipulative tactics to try and get your partner to fulfill that need. Those manipulative tactics can even be subconscious. For example, sometimes adult men have a need to be loved unconditionally and be taken care of, for example because they didn't receive this enough as a child. Sometimes those men in relationships become non-responsible and sort of useless and helpless and childlike as an unconscious manipulative way to try to get their romantic partner to love them unconditionally and take care of them. Of course, this rarely works. Usually the woman is baffled that she suddenly seems to be in a relationship with a child in a grown man's body, and she becomes harsh towards him in an attempt to get him to start behaving like an adult again. This deeply hurts the man because he is getting the opposite of unconditional love. Often this pattern spirals out of control until the relationship ends. Hence, we recommend just communicating your needs instead. If it turns out you two are not compatible because of that, well, that can be a very great shame, but it is preferable to find that out sooner rather than later. A day of receiving. One way of getting your needs met is introducing a yearly day of receiving into your relationship. Say Tom is in a relationship with Anna, then they pick a day in that year that is Tom's day of receiving, and another day in the year that is Anna's day of receiving. During her day of receiving, Anna literally gets to design her day exactly as she wants it. Tom and possibly Anna's friends and family try to facilitate that and also add whatever he or they can think of to make that day the best it can be for Anna. For example, before her day of receiving starts, Anna might hand Tom a list of things that she would like. Say that list includes getting breakfast in bed. Then Tom gives her that and also without discussing it can decide to add a present or flowers or a poem to the breakfast in bed, or give her a massage afterwards. People are invited here to really get their desires met, even if they are shallow or hedonistic ones, or not really the favorite things of their partner. Of course, their partner should still state and protect their boundaries, and things should not cost an unreasonable amount of money. But ideally, they would be willing to do things during this one day that they don't really enjoy that much, yet that do fall within their boundaries. For example, if Anna wants to paint Tom's nails or go to the spa together, and Tom doesn't really like or enjoy that, but it does fall inside his boundaries, then he is invited to let his nails get painted or go to the spa during Anna's day of receiving. You can think of this day as the one day where you are invited to meet whatever need or desire you have, which yes is critical for both people's personal health as well as the relationship self. You can can also think of this day as an exercise in receiving and in asking for what you want, which are topics that people sometimes have blocks in. Thirdly, this day is a practice of asking yourself, what do I actually want? You may find that this day isn't just fun, but that it will also help you grow as a person and perhaps give you some insight into yourself. This is not really the same as a birthday, because conventional birthdays are often polite and formal and not really about satisfying all the desires of the person. For example, a person is often supposed to meet their in-laws during their birthday celebration, even if that's not necessarily the most fun that people could be having. If Tom says, I want to watch sports and have a beer and a homemade sandwich, after she has given me those things, I want Anna to leave me alone so that I can watch my sports in peace. Or it would also be considered weird if during his birthday Tom said that for a good chunk of the day he wishes to be alone with his buddies, with no family or partner being there. Well, that's the sort of thing that days of receiving are for. You can be polite and proper and considerate during the other 364 days of the year. We don't think it's unreasonable if people get to just indulge their desires during one day of the year, and besides, the other partner also gets to have their day of receiving. Of course, I have been discussing some stereotypical male and female suggestions. You don't have to ask for stereotypical things. You are completely free to ask what you personally want. If you have children, you can also have your children design one day in the year that they can do what they want within reason, or you can use their birthday for this. I do recognize that some people are struggling so much that they don't have the time or money to have a day of receiving. I empathize very much and I'm sending you all my love. Emotional safety. Being emotionally safe towards your partner is of absolutely critical importance for both men and women, for both homosexual and heterosexual relationships. Emotional safety is a spectrum, and from our point of view, very few Earth humans score very high on this spectrum. That is one reason why relationships often don't work out. A completely emotionally safe person loves the other person unconditionally, no matter what they do and say, and expresses that. At most, they will disagree with and disapprove of certain actions that the other person does, or they may realize that they are not compatible romantically with the other person, but they will never forget that the other person is fundamentally a divine fractal of source and therefore infinitely valuable and infinitely deserving of love. A completely emotionally safe person doesn't try to push a worldview or set of beliefs onto the other people. They simply aren't so scared that they feel that they need to change the other people to feel safe themselves. Very many people on Earth right now are playing this game. They feel unsafe and they try to make themselves feel safer by trying to get other people to embrace their worldviews, but in turn this only makes that other person feel unsafe too. However, the emotionally safe person doesn't try to push their worldview onto others, and this person understands that other people are on their own journey, and ultimately the soul is immortal and can't be damaged. Therefore, it is okay if other people make so-called bad choices. They are just walking their own path. A completely emotionally safe person is able to see the value in other perspectives, even if he or she doesn't agree with them. If you feel very hostile towards a certain opinion, try genuinely researching it and I'll say it again, and talking to people who have that opinion until you are able to at least see some value or plausibility in that perspective. You don't need to agree with every perspective, but ideally you should be able to do a pretty good job defending any common perspective that's out there, even if you don't agree with it. A completely emotionally safe person is genuinely curious about the other person and will try to get to know them without trying to change them. A completely emotionally safe person also doesn't try to fix the other person's problems unless asked. A completely emotionally safe person listens with the intention to understand, which is actually very rare on your world, and will probably only give unsolicited advice once they fully understand the other person, which is usually much later than the point where most people give advice. A completely emotionally safe person does not personally experience emotional turmoil or pain if someone else tells them a story about something painful or traumatic that happened to them. Thus, people correctly feel like they can tell the emotionally emotionally safe person anything without hurting them or being judged by them or being told by them what to think. It is impossible to trauma dump on a completely emotionally safe person because this person is simply compassionate and empathetic and listens well, but is not personally emotionally disturbed by hearing about someone else's trauma. A completely emotionally safe person might tell the other person that they are loved, they are good just as they are, that every part of them is welcome from the point of view of the emotionally safe person, that the other person doesn't need to do or say or pretend to be anything they're not. A completely emotionally safe person might tell the other person that they are loved, they are good just as they are, that every part of them is welcome from the point of view of the emotionally safe person, that the other person doesn't need to do or say or pretend to be anything they're not, that a lot of things are possible but almost nothing is required, and that the other person is always free to state their boundaries and that they will be respected. An emotionally safe person might thank the other person for stating their boundaries. A completely emotionally safe person is open, authentic, vulnerable, freely expresses genuine admiration and approval, and will express it if other people inspire him or help him or her to become a better version of themselves. With regards to those ideas where the completely emotionally safe person does not have personal expertise or personal guidance or something like that, his or her opinions are only held with, say, 80% conviction and certainly instead of 100% conviction and certainty. Even if mainstream media claims that all experts or scientists say X, then the completely emotionally safe person understands that it is possible that mainstream media is lying or no such consensus actually exists, and hence this person will not state that other opinions are wrong as if that's 100% objective fact. So this sounds great, but how do you become an emotionally safe person? Well, it is a process. You probably won't become a 100% emotionally safe person overnight. The things we have recommended will over time make you an emotionally safe person. So breathe deeply and slowly. Observe your own thoughts and emotions. Try to be kind to others, etc. The more you grow spiritually, the easier it will be for you to be emotionally safe towards others. It can also help to remind yourself that other people are divine fractals of Source. If your partner is being unreasonable, well, he or she is still a divine fractal of Source. This can also be helpful when dealing with other people in general and not just with your romantic partner. What people give, they often want to receive. Not always, but often, people give the things they want to receive. So if your partner often gives you a particular type of thing or a particular type of affection, it can be worthwhile to ask them if that's also something that they would like to receive. Of course, you can also just sit down and ask your partner what type of things they most want to receive and what they most need in order to feel happy and fulfilled in the relationship. One way to deal with disagreements. Suppose one person has a perspective and another person has another perspective. Both perspectives have some amount of truth and utility behind them, not necessarily the same amount of truth and utility, but at least some truth and utility. Surprisingly often, from our point of view, this leads to a disagreement or a fight or at least an unpleasant interaction on Earth because both people want the other to acknowledge the value in their perspective first, before they are willing to consider that the other person's perspective perhaps has some value too. Of course, if both people want the other person to acknowledge the value of their perspective first, both people end up unhappy. This may sound silly if I say it out loud like this, but it actually happens all the time. What we think could be helpful is if people move away from the idea that there is only one perspective that has value in any given situation and move towards the idea that there may be different perspectives that all have some amount of value, not necessarily the same amount, but at least some amount of value. This way, if someone else shares another perspective, you can acknowledge the value in their perspective without feeling like you need to jump the queue and share your perspective instead, and feel like the other person needs to acknowledge the value of your perspective first. You can think of perspectives as glasses. If someone shares a pair of glasses with you, you can say, "Oh, those are some cool glasses, and I can certainly see that they are useful in certain situations." Maybe you already have glasses that you like wearing, but who knows, maybe one day you will find a use price for that new set of glasses that is being shared with you. So if someone shares a perspective with you, it can be good to first acknowledge the value in their perspective before either asking more questions to understand it better or sharing your own perspective or saying where you think their perspective may be limited or flawed. You don't need to agree with a perspective to be able to see at least some amount of value or truth or utility in it. If you share something and someone else doesn't acknowledge the value in your perspective and shares their perspective instead, then you can try just acknowledging the value of their perspective. Having people acknowledge the value in their perspective usually makes people happy because it happens relatively infrequently. In closing, I hope this was helpful. If you have any other relationship tips, please feel free to share them in the comments below. Other people might benefit from that. I leave you today with all my love and well wishes. Tunia. I hope you enjoyed this channeling. I hope you got some wisdom out of it. And if you enjoy celebrity news, then please join my other channel called Miriam Rose. With absolute love and gratitude. Cosmic kisses to everyone. Till next time. Bye for now.